Welcome to our deep dive into the story of Google, a company that quite literally changed the world. We're using Stephen Levy's book, In the Plex, to guide our exploration. And trust me, it's a wild ride.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking from back rub to billions.
Right.
From their funky office culture to some serious global dilemmas.
Fascinating stuff.
And today, we're on a quest to understand how Google's culture shaped its products and decisions. How their core values translated into such a massive impact. And, of course, the bumps they hit along the way.
The bumps are interesting, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, how do they deal with the challenges that come with that kind of success?
Exactly.
It's not easy.
Not at all.
And Levy's book is fantastic for this because it's not just a timeline of events.
Right.
It really digs into the DNA of Google.
Yeah.
The quirks.
The driving forces.
Yeah, the driving forces behind those massive decisions.
It's like stepping into a time machine.
Yeah.
Levy kicks things off with this anecdote about a villager.
Oh, yeah?
Who had never even heard of Google.
Right.
I mean, wow, right?
It's incredible, isn't it?
It really hits you just how much Google has permeated our lives.
Yeah.
Practically becoming synonymous with the internet itself.
Absolutely. And it's a brilliant narrative technique, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Levy uses this encounter to highlight the sheer scale of Google's impact.
Right.
Contrasting this untouched life with the digitally connected world most of us inhabit.
Yeah.
It's a before and after snapshot that sets the stage perfectly.
Okay, rewind back to the very beginning. We've got this academic project called Backrub, born in the hallowed halls of Stanford.
Yep.
Can you imagine trying to explain to someone back then
Oh my gosh.
that this little research project would one day morph into the behemoth that is Google?
It's mind-blowing
I know.
when you think about it.
Really is.
Page and Brin, the masterminds behind it all, saw something truly unique in the way the web was structured. They understood that links weren't just connectors. They were votes.
Votes.
Each link was like a tiny endorsement.
Interesting.
And they built PageRank, the algorithm that would become Google's beating heart.
Yeah.
Around this very idea.
Hold on. Break that down for me a bit more.
Sure.
So essentially, the more links a web page has pointing to it,
Right.
the more valuable or authoritative it becomes in the eyes of Google's algorithm.
Exactly.
It's like a popularity contest, but for websites.
Precisely. It was revolutionary because at the time, most search engines relied on simply scanning the content of web pages for keywords.
Right.
Page and Brin went deeper.
Okay.
Recognizing the power of the web's interconnectedness.
So it wasn't just what was on the page.
No.
It was who was linking to the page.
Yeah, it was about the relationships between the pages.
That's fascinating.
It really is.
But even with this groundbreaking idea, the road to Google wasn't exactly paved with roses, was it?
Absolutely not.
No.
Levy details how many early investors just didn't get it.
They didn't see the vision.
No, Google's vision was so radical, so disruptive to the existing paradigms of search that it initially struggled to find the support it needed.
It's like they were too far ahead of their time.
They were.
Almost.
Yeah.
There's even a story about Page and Brin turning down an offer.
Oh, yeah.
That would have compromised their search results.
That's right.
It's like they were saying, nope. Not going to mess with the integrity of search, even if it means leaving money on the table.
It speaks volumes about their commitment to objectivity.
Right.
Which in the Wild West days of the early internet was a pretty radical concept.
It was.
They were up against giants like Alta Vista.
Yeah.
Who, while formidable, were stuck in a mindset of brute force computing power.
Okay.
Google, on the other hand, was focused on understanding the nuances of search and the user experience.
So it wasn't just about throwing more processing power at the problem. Right. It was about actually understanding how people search and what they were looking for.
Exactly. They were thinking about the human side of the equation.
That's really interesting.
It is.
And then comes a pivotal moment, a partnership that would catapult Google into the spotlight.
Right.
Yahoo.
Yahoo, a major player at the time, decided to license Google's technology.
Okay.
And crucially display that iconic Google logo on their search results page.
So they were basically endorsing Google.
They were.
To all of their users.
Yeah, this exposed millions of users to the power and simplicity of Google's search engine.
Wow.
Giving them an unparalleled boost in visibility.
It's amazing how one seemingly simple decision can have such a massive ripple effect.
It really is the butterfly effect in action.
Right.
And speaking of pivotal moments, Remember the Y2K scare?
Oh, yeah.
While everyone else was panicking?
Yeah.
Google saw it as an opportunity.
Really?
They tackled the potential Y2K bug head on.
So they were like, bring it on.
Yeah, showcasing their commitment to reliability and reinforcing their reputation as a company that could handle complex challenges.
And they pulled it off.
They aced it.
They did.
Cementing their reputation for dependability from those early days.
Okay, so we've covered the origin story,
Mm-hmm.
the early days, the challenges they faced.
Yep.
But I think it's time to dive into what really set Google apart.
Okay.
Their data-driven approach.
The algorithmic advantage.
This is where things get really interesting.
It does.
Google pioneered the use of data logs,
Yeah.
essentially learning from how people use their search engine.
Right.
It's like they were building a giant feedback loop,
Mm-hmm.
constantly refining and improving their algorithms based on real-world interactions.
Think of it like this. Every search, every click,
Yeah.
every interaction became a data point,
Okay.
feeding this ever-evolving learning machine.
So they were using the data to make the search better.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
better.
And better.
Constantly learning and adapting.
Wow.
This data-driven approach allowed them to solve problems in ways that no one else was doing at the time.
Give me an example. What kind of real-world problems did this data-driven approach help them crack?
Okay, so there's this fantastic story about the Audrey Fino problem.
Audrey Fino problem.
Yes. Google's early algorithms were, let's say, a little less sophisticated when it came to understanding names.
Okay.
They would often treat Audrey Fino as two separate search terms instead of a single person's name.
Wait, so if you are searching for someone named Audrey Fino,
Yes.
you might end up with results for Audrey Hepburn
Right.
and I don't know, financial institution?
Precisely. And because of their data-driven approach,
Yeah.
they were able to identify and address this issue,
Okay.
developing sophisticated name recognition systems that we now take for granted.
It's fascinating how these seemingly small tweaks, these behind-the-scenes improvements,
Yeah.
had such a profound impact on the user experience.
They really did. It's all about the details.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing, was it?
Oh, no.
I mean, as Google's influence grew, so did the potential for abuse, right?
Of course.
Cue the rise of search spam.
Ah, yes. The dark side of search.
Right, because with Google holding the keys to online visibility,
Yeah.
people were quick to figure out ways to game the system,
Oh, yeah.
trying to manipulate their rankings for their own benefit.
Right. It became a constant cat and mouse game.
So how did Google combat these digital tricksters?
Well, they didn't just sit back and let chaos reign.
Oh, no.
Levy tells the story of Matt Cutts,
What?
who led Google's valiant efforts against search spam.
So they had a whole team dedicated to fighting spam.
It was a constant battle, a relentless pursuit of maintaining search quality and ensuring that users were presented with accurate and relevant results.
So they were really committed to keeping the search results clean.
Absolutely. They knew that trust was paramount.
That's really important.
It is.
And then there's the challenge of making search more than just text on a page.
Right.
We're talking images, videos, news articles, the whole shebang.
The whole internet.
Yeah, this is where universal search enters the picture, right?
Exactly. Google realized that the internet was becoming increasingly multimedia.
Yeah.
And they needed to evolve beyond just indexing text-based web pages.
Yeah, okay.
They want to bring all these different types of content together, creating a more holistic and comprehensive search experience.
Hold on. Paint me a picture here.
Sure.
What does that actually look like?
Okay.
I mean, how do you seamlessly blend text results with images, videos, and news without creating a confusing mess?
So imagine you're searching for, let's say, the latest iPhone.
Okay.
Instead of just getting a list of websites,
Right.
Universal Search would also bring up relevant images,
Okay.
videos, news articles,
Yeah.
and even shopping results,
Wow.
all within a single search page.
So it's like one-stop shopping for information.
Exactly. It was a bold move to reimagine how we interact with information online.
And they even went after the ultimate language barrier,
Oh, yeah.
tackling machine translation head-on, right?
Led by Franz Ock.
Oh, okay.
Their ambition was to organize and translate all information,
Wow.
regardless of the language it was written in.
That's a huge
It
undertaking.
was a vision of breaking down linguistic walls on a global scale.
So we've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
from the origins of PageRank to the complexities of universal search.
It's been a whirlwind tour
It has.
of early Google.
But what about the people behind it all? What was it like in those early days at the Google Plex,
Yeah.
that legendary tech haven?
The Google Plex, a place where brilliant minds collided.
Okay.
Ideas flowed like lava lamps, and the lines between work and play blurred.
It sounds like a very unique environment.
It was.
So how did they create this culture?
Well, to understand this unique environment, you need to grasp the founder's roots.
Okay.
Marissa Mayer, an early Google executive, famously said, "You can't understand Google without knowing that Larry and Sergey were both Montessori kids."
Montessori kids.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So think about the core principles of Montessori education. Self-directed learning, exploration, collaboration. A focus on fostering creativity.
Okay.
Those values were deeply ingrained in Larry and Sergey.
Right.
And they consciously, or perhaps subconsciously, infused them into the very fabric of Google's culture.
So it wasn't just about building a company.
No.
It was about creating an environment where these brilliant minds could thrive.
That's a perfect way to put it, and Levy's book is packed with anecdotes that illustrate this point.
Give me an example.
Sure, imagine their early office housed in Susan Wojcicki's garage.
Wojcicki's garage.
Yeah.
We're talking about the company that's practically synonymous with the internet today.
I know.
And it all started in someone's garage.
It's a classic Silicon Valley origin story.
It really is.
And the anecdotes about the early Google Plex just get more colorful from there.
Like what?
Well, there's the story of Craig Neville Manning.
Okay.
Who simply decided he didn't need an office wall.
He did it.
And removed it.
He just took it down.
Embracing open communication in the most literal sense.
Okay, that's amazing.
And then there's Craig Silverstein, Google's very first employee.
Wow.
Who would bake bread at home and share it with everyone.
He bakes bread.
Yeah, walking through the office calling out, "Bread, bread!" Like some kind of tech-savvy Pied Piper.
It sounds like a place where creativity and quirkiness were not just tolerated, but actively encouraged.
They were.
But beneath this playful exterior, they were also serious about creating an optimal work environment, right?
Well, absolutely. Levy dives into how Google obsessed over the details.
Okay.
Even down to the design of their conference rooms.
Really?
They wanted to minimize distractions, maximize productivity, and foster collaboration.
So it wasn't just about fun and games.
No, they were serious about getting things done.
Right.
Ensuring that everything from chargers built into tables to a constant supply of pens and markers was in place.
It's like they were building a productivity machine fueled by caffeine camaraderie and, of course, those legendary Google snacks.
Exactly. They wanted to create an environment where people could do their best work.
And speaking of fitting in, there's this concept of googliness.
Yes, googliness.
That permeated their hiring process.
It wasn't just about technical prowess.
Okay.
It was about aligning with their culture.
Right.
Embracing their values. And having that almost intangible quality of well-being, googly.
It sounds almost like a secret society.
It kind of was.
Like, are you googly enough to join our ranks?
There's this great anecdote in the book about an early job candidate.
Okay.
Who, despite being incredibly intelligent,
yeah,
just didn't have that googliness.
Oh, no.
He spent the entire interview lecturing them on everything they were doing wrong.
What?
Essentially missing the point entirely.
So not only did he not get the job, but he probably ended up on some sort of do not hire list, right?
Probably.
Talk about a missed opportunity.
It seems like cultural fit was just as important as technical skills, even in those early days.
It was. And this focus on values on doing things the right way leads us to the next chapter in our Google journey. The birth of their iconic motto.
Don't be evil.
Don't be evil.
A phrase that would become much more than just a slogan.
Okay, I'm ready for part 2.
Don't be evil.
Don't be evil.
It sounds so simple, almost naive, right?
It does.
But this phrase, coined in those early idealistic days, would become more than just a motto for Google.
Right.
It would evolve into a guiding principle, a public declaration, and eventually a source of intense scrutiny and debate.
It's a phrase that's been both celebrated and criticized.
Oh, yeah?
Held up as a beacon of ethical behavior.
Right.
And derided as a hollow marketing ploy.
Exactly. It's used in so many different ways.
So where did it come from?
Well, Levy traces its origins back to internal discussions.
Okay.
A genuine desire to build a company that operated with integrity.
So it wasn't just some PR stunt dreamed up by a marketing team.
No, not at all.
It was actually baked into their DNA from the get-go.
Exactly. And Levy describes how the motto was initially used internally. Almost like a litmus test for decision-making. If an idea came up that felt even slightly unethical,
right,
someone would simply say, That sounds evil.
Oh, wow.
And that would be the end of it.
So they were actually using it to make decisions.
Yeah.
It wasn't just some feel-good slogan hanging on the wall.
It was a living, breathing principle guiding their actions and shaping their culture.
That's fascinating.
It is. But as Google's power and influence grew, so did the complexity of navigating the "don't be evil" mandate.
Right, because what works for a small, scrappy startup doesn't always translate seamlessly to a global behemoth.
That's the challenge, isn't it?
It is. So how did they handle that transition?
Well,
did they manage to stay true to their motto as they grew?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Levy's book grapples with it head-on.
Okay.
He talks about how Cindy McCaffrey, who led Google's communications, felt that the moment "don't be evil" became public, it became a target.
A target.
A weapon used against them by critics. They were held to a higher standard.
Right.
And every decision was scrutinized through that lens.
It's like their idealism, their commitment to ethical behavior became a double-edged sword.
It did.
And they faced some serious dilemmas as they expanded globally, right? Decisions that forced them to confront the limits of their motto.
Exactly. And Levy uses specific examples.
Okay.
Like the Gmail privacy controversy.
Yeah.
The Google China saga, and congressional hearings on censorship to illustrate the complexities of applying "don't be evil" in the real world.
Okay, let's unpack some of these examples.
Sure.
Let's start with the Gmail privacy controversy.
Okay.
What happened there?
So when Google launched Gmail, it boasted a massive storage capacity and powerful search features, but these features came with a trade-off. Google would scan the content of emails to target ads.
So the free service came at the cost of privacy.
In a way, yes.
That sounds like a classic "don't be evil" dilemma.
It was.
How did they justify that decision?
They argued that the ads were relevant and non-intrusive.
Okay.
And that the benefits of a free, powerful email service outweighed the privacy concerns.
But a lot of people weren't happy about that.
No, many critics saw it as a betrayal of trust,
Yeah.
a violation of user privacy, and a slippery slope towards a more intrusive internet.
It's a tough one, for sure.
It is.
And then there's the Google China saga.
Ah, yes, the China dilemma.
Right. A story that really put their commitment to "don't be evil" to the test.
It did.
So what was at stake there?
Well, China, with its massive population and rapidly growing internet usage, was a tantalizing market for any tech company.
Huge market.
Huge. But entering the Chinese market meant complying with the government's strict censorship policies.
Oh.
A direct conflict with Google's stated mission of organizing the world's information and making it universally accessible.
Talk about a rock and a hard place.
It was.
On one hand, they had the potential to connect millions of Chinese users to information. On the other hand, they would be complicit in restricting access to information deemed sensitive by the Chinese government.
Exactly. It sparked fierce debate within Google.
I bet.
Some argued that even a censored version of Google was better than no Google at all.
Okay.
That having some presence, however restricted, would ultimately help to push for more openness in the long run.
So kind of like a foot in the door.
Yeah. But others saw it as a dangerous compromise, a betrayal of their core values.
So how did it play out?
Well, they did enter the Chinese market in 2006.
Okay.
Launching a censored version of their search engine.
So they went for it.
They did.
Yeah.
But it was a fraught and ultimately short-lived experiment.
Really?
They faced constant pressure from the Chinese government.
Yeah.
Their market share never really took off. And then there was the cyber attack.
Wait, a cyber attack?
Yes. In 2010, Google discovered that they had been the target of a sophisticated cyber attack originating from China.
Oh, wow.
Aimed at stealing their intellectual property and accessing the Gmail accounts of Chinese human rights activists.
That's a serious escalation.
It was.
It's one thing to censor search results.
Right.
But actively targeting dissidents and stealing intellectual property, that's a whole different ballgame.
It crossed the line.
So how did Google respond?
It was a turning point.
Okay.
The cyber attack shattered any remaining illusions they might have had about the Chinese government's intentions.
Right.
They publicly accused the Chinese government of the attack.
Wow.
Withdrew their censored search engine from mainland China.
So they pulled out completely.
And rerouted their Chinese search traffic through Hong Kong, which at the time had more relaxed internet regulations.
It was a bold move, a principled stand against a powerful adversary.
It was. But it came at a cost.
Of course.
They lost access to a massive market.
Yeah.
And faced criticism from those who argued they should have stayed and continued to fight for openness from within.
It's a tough call.
It was a complex situation with no easy answers.
Wait.
But it does demonstrate that Google, despite its size and power, was still willing to prioritize its values over profits, at least in this instance.
So they navigated the choppy waters of censorship in China, faced privacy backlash with Gmail, and testified before Congress about their practices.
It was a trial by fire.
It sounds like "Don't be evil" was more than just a motto. It was a constant challenge, a balancing act between their ideals and the realities of operating a global business.
It was, and it continues to be.
Right.
The conversation around "Don't be evil" didn't end with these early controversies.
No.
It evolved and expanded as Google ventured into new territories.
Right.
From mobile operating systems to self-driving cars, each innovation bringing with it a fresh set of ethical considerations.
Speaking of new territories, let's talk about Google's expansion beyond search.
Okay.
We're talking about the rise of AdWords. Their foray into the world of blogging with Blogger, the acquisition of YouTube, and their ambitious push into mobile with Android.
It's quite a journey.
It's like they went from a garage startup to a full-blown tech empire in the blink of an eye.
It was a period of explosive growth, fueled by innovation acquisitions. And let's not forget the massive revenue generated by their revolutionary advertising platform, AdWords.
Okay, let's talk AdWords.
Sure.
It's hard to imagine now.
I know.
But there was a time when Google actually struggled to find a sustainable business model.
It did?
How did they go from losing money to becoming one of the most profitable companies on the planet?
It's a story of innovation, a bit of luck, and a willingness to challenge conventional wisdom.
Okay.
Their early attempts at traditional advertising models fell flat.
So they had to think outside the box.
They did.
Yeah.
It wasn't until they stumbled upon the concept of pay-per-click advertising.
Pay-per-click?
With AdWords as its flagship product. That things really took off.
Break it down for me. What was so revolutionary about this model?
Okay, so think about the traditional way advertising worked. You paid for impressions for simply showing your ad. Regardless of whether anyone actually clicked on it or found it relevant.
So you were essentially paying for eyeballs.
Exactly.
Hoping that some of those eyeballs would turn into customers.
But AdWords flipped the script.
Okay.
It said, hey, advertisers, you only pay when someone actually clicks on your ad and visits your website.
So you're only paying for actual engagement.
Precisely, it aligned incentives with results.
That's brilliant.
It was. And Levy highlights how this innovation almost didn't happen.
Really?
There was significant internal debate about whether to embrace this radical new model.
I can imagine.
Larry Page in particular was initially opposed to it.
Hey, Wes, why?
Page was deeply concerned about compromising the objectivity of search results. He feared that allowing advertisers to essentially buy their way to the top would erode user trust and degrade the quality of search.
So he was worried about the integrity of the search results.
Exactly. He didn't want advertising to taint the purity of search.
That makes sense. It's interesting to see them grappling with these ethical considerations.
It is.
Even as they were trying to build a successful business.
It speaks to that don't be evil ethos we were talking about earlier.
So how did they overcome Page's objections?
Well, Salar Kamangar, who was leading the business side of things, made a compelling case for AdWords. He argued that they could build a system that was both profitable and user-friendly. A system that would connect users with relevant products and services while also generating revenue for Google.
So they found a way to strike a balance.
They did.
Between the idealistic principles and the practical realities of running a business.
Exactly. And the rest, as they say, is history.
And AdWords became the engine that fueled Google's meteoric rise.
It did.
But they didn't stop there, did they?
No, their ambitions seemed to have no bounds.
This is where we start to see the emergence of the sprawling Google empire we know today. Acquisitions like Blogger, Urchin Software, and of course YouTube played a huge role in this expansion.
Exactly. Each acquisition was strategic. Carefully chosen to fill a gap in their ecosystem and expand their reach.
So they were building a whole suite of products and services.
They were.
Okay, let's talk about YouTube for a second.
Sure.
I remember when they acquired it back in 2006.
It was a big deal?
It was a massive deal, over $1 billion.
Yeah, and some people thought they were crazy.
What was the logic behind that acquisition?
Well, Google recognized that video was poised to become a dominant force on the internet.
It makes sense.
They saw that people were increasingly consuming and sharing video content online.
Right.
And they wanted to be at the forefront of that revolution.
So they saw YouTube as the key to unlocking the potential of online video.
Precisely. But it wasn't just about acquiring a platform. It was about acquiring a community.
A community.
A vibrant ecosystem of creators and viewers that was rapidly transforming how we consume and interact with media.
But the early days of YouTube were kind of like the Wild West, weren't they?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people were uploading all sorts of content.
Right.
A lot of it copyrighted material. And the legal landscape was still very much in flux.
It was a chaotic time, for sure.
So how did they navigate that minefield?
Well, Google's legal team had to work overtime to develop systems for identifying and taking down copyrighted content, while simultaneously striking deals with content creators and media companies to legitimize the platform and ensure its long-term viability.
So they were essentially trying to tame the Wild West of online video.
Exactly.
Establish some law and order.
Yeah.
While simultaneously fostering a thriving creative community.
It was a delicate balancing act.
That's no easy feat.
It wasn't, but they managed to pull it off.
They did.
Transforming YouTube from a chaotic free-for-all into the global video powerhouse it is today.
And while all of this was happening, they were also facing intense competition from Microsoft.
Oh, absolutely. The battle for search dominance was heating up.
Because Microsoft, with its Bing search engine, was determined to chip away at Google's dominance.
Right.
And Google wasn't about to let that happen without a fight.
No, they weren't.
So how did they respond?
Well, they counterpunched with the development of Chrome.
Chrome.
Their own web browser.
Okay.
They needed a browser that was fast, secure,
right,
and tightly integrated with their other services. A browser that could serve as a powerful weapon in the battle for the hearts and minds of internet users.
And Chrome was a massive success, wasn't it?
It quickly gained popularity. Eventually becoming the dominant web browser for many users.
But their ambitions went far beyond just winning the browser wars.
Oh, yeah.
They had a much grander vision in mind.
The cloud.
The cloud.
They wanted to move computing from the desktop to the web.
Right.
Making software and data accessible from anywhere with an internet connection.
Yeah, it's a big idea.
It was a revolutionary concept.
So what was their strategy for making this vision a reality?
Android was their answer.
That's right.
It was their ambitious attempt to bring the power of Google to the world of mobile devices.
Okay.
They imagined a world where smartphones weren't just communication devices, but powerful pocket computers.
Right.
Seamlessly connected to the vast resources of the cloud.
Android was a huge gamble, wasn't it?
It was a risky move, no doubt.
Because the mobile landscape was dominated by established players like Apple and Nokia.
Yeah, exactly.
Were people even ready for a Google-powered phone?
That was the big question, but they were determined to make it work.
Okay.
Pouring resources into developing the platform, forging partnerships with phone manufacturers,
right,
and most importantly, making Android open source.
Open source, so they were essentially giving away their operating system for free.
They were. It was a brilliant strategy.
How so?
By making Android open source.
Yeah.
They lowered the barriers to entry for phone manufacturers.
Okay.
Allowing them to customize the platform.
Right.
And create a wide range of devices at different price points.
So they were flooding the market.
In a way, yes. This fueled rapid adoption. And Android quickly became the most popular mobile operating system in the world.
Wow. So they were playing the long game.
They were.
Betting that widespread adoption would ultimately give them a dominant position in the mobile ecosystem.
And it paid off.
It did. Android's success was a testament to their vision, their technical prowess, and their ability to execute on ambitious, even audacious projects.
Absolutely. And this brings us to the final chapter in our exploration of Google's rise.
Okay.
Their foray into what Libby calls moonshot projects.
Moonshot projects. I love that term.
That's a great term.
It evokes a sense of boundless ambition, of pushing the limits of what's possible.
Give me an example. What kind of crazy ideas were they pursuing?
Think self-driving cars.
Okay.
Internet beaming balloons.
Yeah.
Smart contact lenses that monitor glucose levels.
These weren't just incremental improvements.
Right.
They were radical leaps forward.
Yeah.
Driven by a deep belief in the power of technology to solve some of humanity's biggest challenges.
Okay, self-driving cars. I get that.
Yeah.
It's a technology that's becoming increasingly viable, even if it's not quite mainstream yet.
Right.
But internet beaming balloons, that sounds like something straight out of a science fiction novel.
It did sound crazy at the time.
What good?
But Google, under the leadership of Larry Page, who had a particular fondness for these moonshot projects, was determined to make it work.
So they were serious about this.
They envisioned a world where internet access was no longer a luxury, but a fundamental human right.
Okay.
Available to everyone, regardless of location or socioeconomic status.
So they were literally trying to beam internet access down from the sky.
It was an audacious goal.
It was. And while these moonshot projects haven't always been successful, they do highlight a key aspect of Google's DNA.
Yeah.
A relentless pursuit of innovation, a willingness to take risks, and a deep belief in the power of technology to change the world.
They weren't afraid to swing for the fences.
So we've seen how Google built this incredible empire.
You'd have.
Fueled by innovation acquisitions and a laser focus on user experience.
It's been quite a ride.
It has. They went from a scrappy startup in a garage to a global behemoth. Reshaping the way we access information, communicate, and interact with the world around us.
It's hard to imagine life without Google now.
It really is, but all of the success, this rapid rise to power, came at a cost, didn't it?
Of course, there's always a price to pay for success.
As their influence grew, so did the scrutiny, the criticism, and the very real concerns about their impact on society.
The bigger they got, the bigger the target on their back became.
Right. They faced accusations of anti-competitive behavior, privacy violations, and undue influence over the flow of information.
It's exactly. It seems like the "don't be evil" motto became harder and harder to uphold as their power grew.
Okay, I'm ready to tackle part 3. Let's do it. So we left off talking about the cost of success.
The scrutiny, the challenges.
Right. Antitrust lawsuits, privacy concerns.
It wasn't all sunshine and roses.
Definitely not. So let's dig into that a bit more.
Okay.
Where do we start?
Well, I think it's important to remember that Google's dominance in search and advertising inevitably attracted the attention of regulators around the world.
Makes sense when you control the gateway to information.
Right.
When your algorithms determine what people see and don't see. It raises some serious questions about fairness, transparency, and the potential for abuse.
Exactly. And Livy dives into the European Union's antitrust investigations, where Google was accused of using their dominance in search to give their own products and services an unfair advantage.
So they were accused of being a monopoly, basically.
Essentially, yes, squeezing out competitors.
So it wasn't enough to just be a search engine anymore.
It seems not.
They had to be in the game for everything.
Yeah, maps, shopping, travel, you name it.
And the concern was that they were using their search dominance to tilt the playing field in their favor.
Precisely. Regulators argued that Google was prioritizing its own products and search results. Even if those results weren't necessarily the most relevant or useful for users.
So it became a battle over what constitutes fair competition in the digital age.
Exactly. It's a question that we're still grappling with today.
It's a tricky issue, right?
It is.
On the one hand, you want to encourage innovation and reward companies that create great products. On the other hand, you don't want to stifle competition and create monopolies that ultimately hurt consumers.
It's a delicate balancing act.
And how did Google respond to these accusations?
Well, they defended their practices, of course, arguing that their algorithms were designed to benefit users to deliver the most relevant and useful search results possible.
So they were saying they were just trying to give people what they wanted.
Yeah, and they pointed out that users had plenty of other options. That they could easily switch to Bing or DuckDuckGo if they were unhappy with Google's results.
So they were basically saying, hey, if you don't like us, you're free to go elsewhere.
Exactly. But did regulators buy that argument?
That's the question.
Not entirely. The pressure continued to mount, and Google eventually had to make concessions.
Like what?
Agreeing to modify some of their practices. And to be more transparent about how their algorithms work.
Because they had to open up the black box a little bit.
To some extent, yes. But the debate over their power and influence continues to this day.
It's a debate that goes to the heart of how we regulate the digital economy, how we ensure fair competition, and how we protect users from potential abuses of power by tech giants.
It's a conversation that's more relevant than ever.
It really is. And then there's the whole issue of privacy.
Oh, yeah, the elephant in the room.
As Google amassed more data about our online behavior, the concerns about how that data was being used only grew louder.
And rightfully so.
Because Google's entire business model is built on data.
It is.
They collect vast amounts of information about our searches, our browsing habits, our location, our email, our contacts. The list goes on and on.
It's kind of mind-boggling when you think about it.
It's kind of creepy when you think about it.
I know.
It's like they have this massive digital dossier on each of us, a detailed record of our online lives.
And the question is, what are they doing with all that data?
That's the big question, right?
It is. They've faced criticism for their targeted advertising practices.
Right.
For using our data to create eerily accurate profiles of our interests and preferences.
Yeah, it's like they know us better than we know ourselves.
And for potential overreach in areas like facial recognition and location tracking.
It's a constant tension, isn't it?
It is.
We want the convenience and personalization that these technologies offer.
Yeah.
But we're also increasingly wary of the potential for privacy violations and data breaches.
That's a tough balance to strike.
It is. How do you strike the right balance between innovation and privacy?
Right.
Between personalization and data protection?
That's the challenge for Google and, frankly, all tech companies.
It's a question that will continue to be debated for years to come.
No doubt about it.
And Levy's book ends on a rather intriguing note.
Oh, yeah.
He points out that Google quietly dropped their iconic "Don't Be Evil" motto from their code of conduct in 2018.
It was a subtle change.
Yeah.
But a symbolic one nonetheless.
It raised questions about whether Google, as it matured and evolved, was moving away from its founding principles, perhaps embracing a more pragmatic, less idealistic approach to business.
It's hard not to see it as a sign of the times, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the age of data breaches, fake news, and growing concerns about the power of tech giants.
Right.
The idea of a company that can truly don't be evil seems almost quaint.
A relic of a more innocent era?
Perhaps, but even without the motto explicitly stated, the legacy of don't be evil still lingers.
You think so?
I do. It's woven into the fabric of the company, influencing their decisions, their products, and the ongoing conversation about their role in society.
So where does that leave us?
Well,
we've explored Google's incredible journey.
We have.
Their innovations, their challenges, their triumphs, and their controversies.
It's been quite a deep dive.
It has. What's the takeaway?
That's a good question.
What have we learned from this deep dive into the world of Google?
I think we've seen how a simple idea, born in a Stanford dorm room, grew into a global force, reshaping the way we access information, communicate, and interact with the world around us.
They've had a massive impact.
We've seen their commitment to innovation, their data-driven approach, and their ambitious vision of organizing the world's information and making it universally accessible.
It's a powerful vision.
It is, but we've also seen the complexities and challenges that come with such power.
Right, the ethical dilemmas they've faced.
Yeah.
And the ongoing debates about their role in society.
It's a story that's both inspiring and cautionary.
I agree.
A reminder of the incredible potential of technology to improve our lives, but also the importance of wielding that power responsibly, ethically, and with a constant awareness of the potential consequences.
Because with great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly.
Google's story is far from over.
It's true.
It's a story that continues to unfold, evolving with each new innovation, each new challenge, each new debate about the role of technology in our lives.
And as we navigate this ever-changing digital landscape, the lessons we've gleaned from Google's journey, the importance of innovation, the power of data, the complexities of ethical decision-making, and the constant need for vigilance in the face of unchecked power will continue to be relevant and valuable.
I think that's a great place to leave it.
I agree.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
It has. Thanks for having me.
And thanks to all of you for listening to our deep dive into the world of Google.